On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, Oklahoma City starts training camp, and we're going to rank the biggest rivals for Oklahoma City in this season. Coming up.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into the biggest takeaways from this past week. We've had Sam Presti, we've had Media Day, we've had day one of training camp. What all has stood out for you to know heading into day two of training camp? We're also going to rank the Thunder's rivals heading into this season with Brenner Abar, OKC Dream Teamer, with myself over there on Patreon, Daily Thunder, Thunder Roundtable, 1077 The Franchise. Brandon, how you doing today? Really in the midst of another season.
Yeah, it's officially here, Rylan. I'm doing well. It was exciting to be a part of Media Day. It felt like a reunion of sorts. All the players, sans Kenrich Williams, and then Mark was there. Like all the media was there. It just kind of felt like a family reunion of sorts, like the Thunder family and extended family. I think we're extended family. We're not family, but we're like the uncles. We're like the crazy uncles or whatever that show up that everybody's ready to leave. But it was fun to be back.
Yeah, we don't get the premier invites, but we do get some invites to certain events. So it's a great to be a part of, whatever part we are of this family. We have our own family though in the media, so it's great to see our fellow media family again in person at Media Day and at training camp. So whenever we're talking about this all-encompassing, like Sam Presti presser, Media Day, training camp, there's a lot to get into. The biggest thing that stood out to me is one of the fresher things, and that's that Nikola Topic has been the topic of conversation at all three phases, but specifically over the last 2 days, AJ Mitchell, Chet Holmgren, they've all talked about Topic's ability to play off the ball, and that's been an area where I've really struggled to see where Topic fits in this style of him being a guy who can't necessarily shoot the ball great, especially off the catch. And he has a good starting point as a project shooter because the mechanics can easily be flushed out, and he's worked with Chip England. But the production as an off-ball player isn't necessarily there. And, of course, his biggest skill set of getting to the rim and playmaking happens on the ball. But Chet Holmgren pointed out how his ability to read the game and read the floor allows him to be a really good cutter. And obviously cuts can be taken away if guys aren't respecting his three-point shot. But it is interesting that that stood out to Chet after day number one of training camp, playing with these guys again and getting back into the swing of things. So perhaps Nikola Topic will be better than expected off the ball this season.
When a team wins an NBA title and brings back every single rotation player that played real minutes in the title run, there's not a whole lot of questions. There's not a whole lot of new mysteries about the team because, all these guys that won the championship are still here. But Nikola Topic is kind of the one exception, that kind of the mystery box that we're all kind of looking at and just kind of wondering what he can be. Like you said, his playmaking is what really, really pops. His driving to the rim really, really pops. But if he is going to be in an off-ball role, and I think that's one of the questions, okay, so the bench unit, is that going to be AJ Mitchell's leading it? Is it going to be Topic? Or are they going to go back and forth? It can both be combo guards. I am curious about the shooting. I'm curious about the cutting. He is a really smart player. I think that he's going to pick things up. There's a reason why he was projected to be a top 3 to 5 pick in his draft. But a lot of that was the playmaking and the driving. And if he's playing off ball, I'm just very, very curious. He's big. He's got a lot of size. He's got a lot of IQ. Like I said, I'm just kind of fascinated to see how it all fits, that bench unit especially, because that's what I'm really curious about. AJ's role, Topic's role, and then the other guys, how they all fill in with the bench.
Yeah, and what's funny about Topic is carving out a role for him this season doesn't require him to play off the ball a ton, because you would imagine that his role is to become a different look for their secondary unit, a unit that last year at times could stall offensively and could really be tested and oftentimes hurt in half court offense. Topic's playmaking should alleviate some of that pressure, and when he's in those secondary lineups, he might need to take an off-ball role next to J-Dub at times, but if he can cut and if he can make himself valuable in other ways, then that can be mitigated in terms of the net loss of him as an off-ball player to a certain extent. So just seeing how they handle Nikola Topic will be very fascinating. Mark praised his maturity, which is a big deal. Like whenever Mark has talked about guys in the past and has talked about their maturity and has talked about things that you can often link to trust, for example, he's typically gotten those young guys more minutes than previously expected. So we'll see what Nikola Topic looks like this year. Excited to see what he looks like throughout preseason, even as the Thunder have a really daunting preseason schedule. It starts on Sunday. There's a back-to-back. There's a 3-game and 4-night stint. There's games at what feels like every day in the preseason for Oklahoma City. So they like to maximize that schedule, and they've done that with Mark in the past, like whenever they've been requesting to play these more preseason games. So I'm really excited to get them going here on Sunday. But what's been the biggest standout to you? What's been something that stuck with you over these past few days of the season really beginning?
Yeah, so there were a few things from Media Day that stood out to me. I first want to just kind of bring attention to J. Will. I thought that he kind of had the quote of the day, the soundbite of the day, when Barry Trammell asked him, you're a really talented player, but on this team, you don't know when the minutes are going to come because you have Chet in front of you, you have Hartenstein in front of you. Like, I know you love it here and I know you love this team, but if you're with a different team, you might have more minutes. Like, how do you balance that? And I just thought that J. Will's answer was like classic J. Will, great response. Basically saying, I've looked at my journey in the NBA as a blessing. So everything I do is a blessing, whether it's on the bench, whether I play 30 minutes, whether I play no minutes that night, it's a blessing to even be there, to be in the arena. And he talked about, how he loves this team. He wants nothing but success for Hartenstein and for Chet. I just thought that just kind of encompasses who J. Will is and why he's so important to this team and to this locker room and to this community. And, why the organization holds him so highly. That was the thing that really stood out to me on Media Day. The other thing that stood out, Rylan, was Shai talking about Chet. Like, Shai kind of like glowed about Chet. Like he really, really went on about, Shai's always going to, prop up his teammates and say great things about him. But I think, listening to hear him talk about Chet, I think he realizes the ceiling that Chet has, and he was really putting it out there. Like, we haven't even scratched the surface of the player that Chet can be. And if Chet does become that player that Shai thinks he can be and that we all think he can be, that's one of the ways that this Thunder team coming off a championship can improve that much more.
Yeah, and I think that Chet is that piece that whenever you look at this team running it back, and that's been the biggest talking point so far. We've talked about it on the show already of them bringing back an entire title run team. There's oftentimes confusion of that with like, oh, they're trying to do the exact same thing they did last year. Like, the reason why they're running it back is the hope that it'll look different, the hope that it'll continue to improve. And the reason you have that hope, and also the reason you have that confidence and betting on that, is guys like Chet getting better. As Shai said, that you're going to be forced to see him evolve as a player and turn into a must-watch player, and talked about Chet's work ethic, which is second to none. And Chet today at training camp talked about how, guys use the off season to do what they can't do in season lifestyle wise. He uses the off season to do what he can't do basketball wise. And that's a sneaky thing about development, is that like in the season, you have a defined role and you have a defined schedule. Like, this week of practice is the most this team's going to practice all year because of the rigors of an 82-game season. They'll have a stint like this again during the playoffs. Like, as long as they're a top 6 team, they're going to have a week off until the playoffs. But until that date at the very end of the regular season, they're not going to have a stretch like this where they can really practice and explore parts of your game. So in the offseason, you've got to push yourself and see what are you capable of, especially in situations such as like Chet on the ball, Chet with his handle, Chet getting to the rim, playing off the catch, stuff that you're not always required to do in the NBA in your role. And that's how you continue to get better. So Chet wanting to spend the offseason pushing the limits of his game is how he's going to turn into the player that Shai and the player that a lot of us think that he's going to be. There's a reason why on every list, it's not just the lockdown list, it's ESPN's list. Like every list has put him in the top 30 conversation for the NBA. And that's really high and really rich whenever you look at the fact that he's only played, in 100 something games. He played 82 games his rookie season. He played 36 games last season, and he's already in that caliber of player because you can see the ceiling offensively and you can see what he already is defensively as a top 3 player in this league defensively. So I think that Chet still having that buzz around him and that glow, as you said, around him is a good thing. And J. Will is an underrated part of this too, because J. Will has noticeably slimmed down. He talked about how he thinks that slimming down can really benefit his game. Well, what's been the thing that we've talked all summer long about? If J. Will can get a little bit better defensively, then it really changes his outlook as a player. It changes his outlook on this rotation. Well, he can get better defensively by being more athletic, and he's already made strides athletically. And what if the slimming of his frame gives him even more of a jolt athletically, and it makes him even better of a defender to couple with his offensive skill set. So all that stuff has been really good in training camp, and I'm excited to see how it really happens on the court. But coming up, we'll talk about more of our big takeaways from Media Day and from training camp. But first, I want to tell you right now, my good friends over at FanDuel, go check out FanDuel today because the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your bet. That's right. You place a bet with $5, your first $5 bet. If it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Go right now to FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, get started. If you're only into the NBA, they already have lines out there for you. Not only can you bet on awards, not only can you bet on over-unders, you can already place your bet on opening night where the Thunder are 8.5-point favorites over the Houston Rockets. But if you are into the NFL for this weekend's action, you can get ahead on your Sunday predictions and you can go down and see your Dallas Cowboys, Brandon, 2.5-point favorites in New York against the Jets. So check that out today at FanDuel.com. We need the Cowboys to win, not only for your fandom, but because I've picked them in our Survivor pool. So go to FanDuel.com to get started. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Talk with Brandon Rabar about our biggest takeaways from training camp and from Media Day. Brandon, what's been your biggest takeaway outside of J. Will and Chet? What's another thing that stood out to you so far?
I think the running theme, and this was kind of carryover from Sam Presti's preseason presser, was turning the page from last season and continued improvement. Like, this team is not, just satisfied with winning that championship. They're still hungry. They still know that they can improve. Like, this is a team that won 68 games, won a title, the second youngest to ever win it. But every single one of them, talked about how they enjoyed it, relished it. But now it's time to turn the page to this season and all the things they can do to improve and still have that mentality, 0-0 mindset, stacking days, all those things that we've come to know with this Thunder team, what makes them, stand out as far as their mentality and stand out as far as their work ethic and all those things, it's still in them. Like, it's not going to change. This is still going to be a team that I think you're going to see 100% effort trying to go out and win every single game that they can. So I think, to me, like, if you were to pick a theme of Media Day, Sam Presti presser, preseason, training camp, all those things, it would be turning the page, improving, and focusing on the next goal of this season and all the things they want to accomplish now.
Yeah, and I think that teams embody their coach and that teams take on the identity of their coach. And that's why it's so important to get that hire right. And what Mark's identity has been since the time he got here, of a 20-win team that was expected to be bad, and then now a team that just won a championship has remained consistent of 1 of 82, stacking days, 0-0. And then today at training camp, he was asked a question about defending the title, and that's going to be a big buzzword around Oklahoma City from now until June, is defending the title and trying to buck the trend of parity that has graced the NBA for the first time ever. And Mark put it simple: you can't win a championship, you can't even win a playoff series on October 1st. And he thought today was October 1st, was actually September 30th. So then he corrected himself and said, you also can't do it on September 30th, win a playoff series or a championship, which is okay, Mark. I've often forgotten the days. They all run together, especially whenever you're doing daily podcasting. So I get it, Mark. We've all been there. But it's true. And he said, but you know what you can do? You can set yourself back, and you can set yourself back of not being able to do those things if you're not focused on the right thing. The only thing that they could do today is have a great first day of training camp. And it sounds like they did. And the only thing they can do tomorrow is have a great second day of training camp. And the day after that is the third great day of training camp. So you've got to tackle the task in front of you. That's been consistent messaging from a head coach in Oklahoma City for his whole tenure here. And so it's not as jarring to these players to feel that way and to have that message expressed to them, because it's been beaten into them over the course of their whole careers in Oklahoma City. And so his ability to have the foresight to and the ability to stay in tune to that ideology throughout his career in Oklahoma City sets up the Thunder to have that sort of success and to have it not flip on them. Because you can imagine that if you didn't think that way for 4 years and now you want a title and now you're trying to tell them, okay, it's one day at a time now, it can easily go in one year and out the other. But because it's just part of who you are, it's part of your lifestyle, it's part of what you do, it doesn't faze them to be facing this challenge of defending their title, because they've always been one foot in front of the other as a team. And so I think that turning the page is made easier by that identity already being part of who they are and the fabric of this team. So I think that Mark does a great job of that. Mark did a great job of answering that question. And then the question was asked to Kaysen, and he said, you know what? I've never defended a title. That was our first title we've ever won. I don't know what it's like to defend a title. We're just going to again put stack days and keep trying to be the best that you can be today. And so I think that that's great. And the mentality that they have is great heading into this year. But I also did find, Hartenstein and Chet talking about one another to be very interesting, and talking about how that duo can evolve, because it's been a duo that when Hartenstein initially signed here back last offseason, we had our preconceived notions of how that was going to look. How are they going to manage two bigs? Were they going to start both of them? Were they going to stagger them? Can this work together on either end of the floor? So we had that perceived notion. Then we got to see it, but we got to see it after Chet suffered a hip fracture and had to race his way back to playing on this team. And then we got to see it in the postseason, and we felt like we had an idea of who they are. But in reality, like, this is a partnership that will continue to evolve throughout this season, will continue to evolve throughout however long they play together. And so I think that those two guys attacking it with an open mind and understanding that, while that double big duo did win a championship, and it became a situation in the Indiana series where you wanted to go to it and you wanted to lean on it after starting with Kaysen in the first game, the first couple of games, I guess. But whenever you look at that double big lineup, the understanding that this team has of it's not a finished product, I think is the right mentality to have. And I think that seeing where they can go from here, when and if Chet returns back to what we expect from him offensively, how that changes what that lineup looks like is very important. How they can understand how to play off of one another. I think that last year they were trying a lot of different things because they just didn't have enough time. They had to explore so many different avenues of how that double big lineup could work because they just didn't have a full season. Whereas you saw them try iHeart setting screens for Chet. You saw them trying iHeart being a facilitator for Chet. And I think that they're going to find out that it's best to have them on the floor together, but it's best to have iHeart as like a high post playmaking hub. Chet sets a screen for J-Dub, for example, gets an advantageous switch, and you trust in iHeart to make the right read. Who got the better switch between Chet and J-Dub? Who's in a better scoring position between those two guys? And pick your poison from that aspect of things. And that is only possible with time, with chemistry, and with evolution. So I think that the double big lineup not being a point of complacency for this team is a big deal.
Yeah, when you think about it, we haven't seen the double big lineup the way it's supposed to really truly be, because the beginning of the season, Chet was in, Hart was out. Then Chet goes out and Hart is in. And then finally we get the double bigs, but Chet is not 100%. And they're kind of like, doing it on the fly. They're one, like, working out the chemistry and working out the kinks, throughout the last part of the season and through a playoff run, through a title run. They're working it out in real time, but they're also working it out while Chet is not 100%. So now we get a training camp, we get a preseason, and we get, day one, game one of a healthy Chet, a healthy Hartenstein, with some experience now of playing double bigs. So I'm very fascinated to see how this really works, with both guys 100% and with some experience. But yeah, I thought that they were both very open and honest about it, that, they love this double big lineup, but they still have some kinks to work out, that it wasn't perfect, and how it's kind of a work in progress, and they're figuring things out.
Figuring it out is the name of the game for Oklahoma City. They still have to continue to evolve as a team, and we'll see how they do that. But coming up, let's see who they're going to stack up with. Let's see who their biggest rivals are and what rivalries can emerge this season on today's show. But first, I want to say right now, my good friends over at Peloton, go check them out today, because Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with brand new Peloton crash training trends. Plus, it's powered by Peloton IQ, and it's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, lifting, or crash training with your favorite instructors, go check them out today. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. Make sure you go check them out today. The swivel screen is a game changer. It lets you go from running to strength training without missing a beat. And they have personalized class recommendations that keep you engaged, so you can get through workouts tailored for your vibe, your energy level each week and each day. Make sure you check them out today, because I also love the fact that it has all these features. And me personally, Brandon, we've been playing some basketball. We've been, going on these walks and these jogs and going outside and everything. But there's going to come a time where it's going to be too cold, going to be too rainy, going to be too snowy, even perhaps. There's supposed to be a lot of snow this winter. And Peloton makes it possible to, no matter what's happening outdoors, you can still get done what you need to have done with Peloton. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Thread Plus today at onepeloton.com. That's onepeloton.com. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast, on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day. Talking with Brandon Rabar, DailyThunder.com, 1077 The Franchise, OKC Dream Team, with myself over there on Patreon, and Thunder Roundtable. Brandon, I asked you to rank the Thunder rivals. You came up with 7. I came up with 7. And I want to carve it down to a top 5 list. So we're going to have teams on the outside looking in. So of your 7, who's on the outside looking in as possible Thunder rivals?
All right. Outside looking in, I have the Lakers at 6, because you have the Shai and Luka thing. And then also, a possible, threat in the West. Possible's doing a lot of work there, but possible threat in the West. And then the Clippers, because the whole history with the Clippers and the trade and what ended up becoming SGA and J-Dub and all of that. So those were the 2 that I had on the outside looking in.
I like that. I had the Lakers on the inside, honestly, because of the Shai Luka factor. I'm not tied to keeping them on the inside. My outside looking in included the Memphis Grizzlies, though, because I think that it's a sneaky one. And it's one that you only understand if you're in the 2 fan bases. It's not, and the reason why it's outside looking in is that's not going to become must-see TV. It's not going to become fodder for the national conversation. But if you know these 2 fan bases, the Grizzlies think that they invented group interviews, and they think they invented young teams having fun. No one in the history of the world had fun before Memphis came around, because Memphis was such a fun time, and the Grizzlies were such a fun team, and the Thunder just stole their ability to have fun, as if 20-year-olds don't often have fun. So that you have that aspect. You have the aspect of like these Grizzly fans who haven't done anything, haven't won anything of note in their entire franchise history, dating back to Vancouver, and yet they think that somehow they would have won that series last year had Ja not gotten hurt in a series in which they were already down 2-0 and suffered the most embarrassing playoff losses of all time. So you have that kind of knowledge of these two fan bases and them going at it on social media, not liking one another. And you also have those two fan bases. The Grizzlies fans, believe it or not, still believe that Josh ceiling is like Shai-ish levels, which is insane to everyone in Oklahoma City, but it's not insane to them. It's not insane to them at all. So it's like they're just going to be a thorn in your side on those days in which you play the Grizzlies. The Twitter aspect of things, the fan base aspect of things is what really makes a rivalry. So I think that they should be mentioned, but I did also like your honorable mention. So who's your five? Who cracked that top five list?
So at number 5, I have the Dallas Mavs. And I don't know if this is a team that you have ranked higher or not ranked at all. But, obviously recent history, the playoff meetings. And there was like, if you talk about fan bases, if you look like on social media during that series, it got pretty nasty online between fans. And then the old Shai and Luka thing. Plus you have Texas, Oklahoma, of course, that connection. You have the history. There's been some history in the playoffs between Dallas and Oklahoma City. And I think this is a team, if they were fully healthy, could be a threat in the West. We'll see if we get a fully healthy Kyrie at some point and if maybe they match up in the playoffs. But, Cooper Flag. So this is a team that should be sticking around for several years. I don't think they'll reach the heights of OKC, but I think there's enough there for them to be the number 5.
I'm glad that we didn't share our list beforehand because I love doing this on the show. You nailed it. 5 for me is the Dallas Mavericks because
Nice.
All due respect to the Spurs and the Rockets, Dallas is Texas's team. And it's Texas, it's Oklahoma, it's fan bases that don't like each other, and it's fan bases who can spurn on this rivalry. And you know how Texans act. Let's be honest. Texans are not great, honestly. And the Mavericks level of defense that they're going to play this season is capable of not only beating the Thunder in the regular season once or twice, but it's also capable of, like, if they had a playoff series, the Thunder wouldn't sweep them. They'd win in 5 or 6. And in between, there would be close games that the Thunder won. And you'd have to hear from Mavs fans all season of like, oh, well, we stole a couple games, and if Cooper Flag was just a little bit more experienced and older and better offensively, we would have beaten you. And so, like, we're right there. We're coming back for you now. And it's like the Texas fans would be annoying about that. So I do think that still has time and the ability to be a rivalry because not only do they have history dating back beyond just 2024, but man, that 2024 rivalry was something special. There was a lot of Mavs fans in the Paycom Center for that playoff series. There was a lot of Thunder fans who went down to the AAC. So it just really sparked something. Nico Harrison tried to ruin it by trading Luka Doncic, but I still believe that the fan bases don't like one another. And if they do see a situation where they are hanging around for 3-4 years, and honestly, in the modern NBA, if you see this Thunder team take on that Cooper Flag, AD, Kyrie team for 2-3 years, that's the shelf life in the NBA anymore. So, like, that's enough for a rivalry. So I do have them in my top 5, and I also have them at 5. So let's see if you can go 2 for 2. Who's number 4?
Number 4, I went back and forth between 3 and 4. I finally settled on the Spurs, the San Antonio Spurs, at number 4. All right, first of all, you got Chet versus Wemby, and obviously the NBA is all about Chet versus Wemby. Like, every time they play, they're going to put them on national TV. It's the Christmas game, and this is a rivalry that's kind of like, it was a past rivalry. There's a lot of history, of course, in the playoffs between the Spurs and the Thunder, 2 of the best teams of the past decade, and now they're rebuilding. Obviously, the Thunder, have won a championship. The Spurs are trying to get there. So this is a rivalry that I think we had it in the past, and it's kind of just like marinating right now, but it's become a bigger rivalry again in the future. We're kind of just in the middle right now, but it's on the rise. So yeah, I got the Spurs at number 4.
I like that. I had the Lakers in, and so I had the Lakers at 4 because of the whole Luka and Shai thing. I think that the modern NBA with player movement and player empowerment and all the stuff that you hear about, it is more so tethered to matchups than it is tethered to teams nowadays. And I just think that the fan bases driving rivalries, Luka fans, Shai fans don't like each other. And those two guys are going to be fighting for the best player in the NBA and fighting for the same accolades, fighting for the same conference for many, many years to come. So that's why I had them at 4, but I do have the Spurs involved. So I'm curious who on your list we've left out. Now, I will say, I'm comfortable right now banking on your team that I don't have because I have the Lakers and you don't, being a better rival than the Lakers. So I'll concede and I'll give the Spurs at 4 because I had the Spurs at 3. And so I'm thinking that the wise old man Brandon Rabar has conjured up a rivalry that I have forgotten about, and that's why they're in your top 3 and the Spurs aren't. So I'm going to stick with the Spurs at 4. So we have this Dallas, San Antonio, Texas heavy rivalry. Who's at number 3 for you?
Yeah, so like I said, I went back and forth between 3 and 4, but I feel good about this team at number 3 that you obviously don't have. If we're talking about fans are really what makes a rivalry, I agree with that. And if you were to poll like 1,000 Thunder fans right now and say, like, what team do you really not like? And what player do you really not like? I think this team and this player, despite not being a recent rivalry, there's so much history. I think most Thunder fans, the Warriors.
You're going Warriors.
I'm going Warriors. I think if you polled all these Thunder fans, Warriors and Draymond Green would show up over and over again. And then Warriors fans are not real happy about the Thunder right now because this is a team that obviously won a championship and they're kind of like considered the new dynasty, taking the mantle from the Warriors. They were the dynasty of the past decade. Now the Thunder are the new it team. But then also like there was all that stuff about like Shai's Instagram and all that stuff with Curry. And of course, you know, everybody that covers Thunder know that Shai just makes his Instagrams. I don't think he was like directing anything at Steph, but Warriors fans took it that way. They felt a certain way. But I think when you look at the history, you've got to include the Warriors. And I'll say this, I am higher on the Warriors this year. I think the most are because when I look at like how the Warriors played when they had Curry, Butler, and Draymond on the court together, and then some of the pickups they've had, like Al Horford, and all those things that they've done. I think this is going to be a good team this year. So there's a chance that the Thunder runs into the Warriors in the playoffs this year. And if that happens, those old rivalry feelings are going to go all the way to 10. They're going to crank to 10. I'm telling you right now. So I got the Warriors at number 3.
So I'm glad that I discarded the Lakers for the Warriors because I think that you're right. I think that this is less of a shelf life than Luka Shai, but more of a hatred, more of a rivalry than Luka Shai because, you got a playoff series between Golden State and OKC. Even after the championship's in hand, there's a section of Thunder fans who just the logo, Steph and Draymond would be enough to put fear into their hearts about that series. And then you get to that series, and Steph is avalanching in threes at times. Draymond has some antics that he pulls. And then, by the way, Jimmy Butler is living at the free throw line, but doesn't get the same backlash that Shai does. That can really spark things, and that can really set fire to and rekindle an old rivalry. I would put the Spurs ahead and then 3 and the Warriors in 4, but 3 and 4, let's not get stuck there. I concede again that the Warriors are on the list and the Lakers are not. And our top 2 teams better be the exact same. My number 2 is the Houston Rockets. I think that the Houston Rockets, they have Kevin Durant, but they also just their fan base has this hubris and has had it the entire length of these 2 teams rebuild, which by the way, started at the exact same time. Like the Thunder were good after they traded away Russ and Paul George. They were the equivalent of a 50-win team, and they were ousted by these Rockets in 7 games in the bubble, but it took 7 games to get it done. And the Thunder have now had back-to-back 1 seeds and have won a championship, while the Rockets thought that their number 2 seed and first-round exit to the Warriors last year was some banner occasion. So I do think that there is a lot there in terms of longevity, but also in terms of the short term of having KD on ring night, on banner night will open up a lot of feelings. And if history goes the way we think, like the way that it's gone in the past of like the champions on banner night not being great and the Rockets still win that game even without Fred VanVleet, then Rockets fans are going to be through the moon of just, oh, this team is capable. This team can do it. And you've got to live with that until these two teams match up in the playoffs. So I do think that the Rockets are number 2, but there's not enough there at that number 1 spot for me. But I do think the Rockets, great rivals.
Yeah, I had the Rockets at number 2 for all the same reasons. And of course, again, 3 of the top 5, it's Oklahoma versus Texas. So you had that baked into it. Like you said, going through the rebuild at the same time, even though the Thunder were headed the entire time and ended up winning a championship, and the Rockets are still trying to get there. The KD factor is obviously a big part of this as well, because they were already rivals. And then you add KD to the mix, and they were a team. They were 1 and 2 seeds last year, and the Rockets feel like they're a true contender this year. I think that the Fred VanVleet injury really hurts them, unfortunately, for Rockets fans. But yeah, I feel the Rockets had to be 2, and number 1 was just so completely obvious.
The Denver Nuggets.
Yes,
Clearly, the Denver Nuggets number 1.
Yes.
There is a pocket of Thunder fans that cringe and cope every time that we say, hey, Jokic, best player in the world. But, whoever you put in the best player in the world, it's 1 and 2 or 1A, 1B, Shai and Jokic. And that in and of itself throughout the NBA's lifespan has been enough for a rivalry. You look back on who those conversations have been about in the past. It's like LeBron and Steph. And of course they had finals history together, but now the Thunder have a 7-game series history with the Nuggets. And I expect those two teams to play again in the playoffs. And I expect it again to be a 6-7 game series to decide the eventual title winner this season. They're in the same division. They're baked into play 4 times a year. There's a sense of, like, honestly, there's some nuisances in Denver. Their media is pretty full of themselves, like, just beyond even Matt Moore, folks. I mean, they're pretty full of themselves in general in Denver. So it's like, you have that added in on the social media aspect. The games are highly competitive. Like, Denver wants to prove that they, if they weren't so injured last year, they could have came out on top of that series. OKC wants to prove that, like, no, we beat you for a reason. Like, we're still better than you. There's just a lot here. And I know that the rap sheet around Jokic is he doesn't care about basketball. He cares about basketball. He cares about winning. And he's not going to just go off and retire and go race horses in a year or two. He's going to be a dominant force. And Shai will be a dominant force for the next decade. So it's like these teams are just getting started with what is in front of them. They were in a tight battle for the 1 seed that came down to tiebreakers 2 years ago. Last year, it was a 7-game series with a lot of injuries for Denver. This year, there's a reason why the NBA champion, according to the ESPN experts that they pulled from inside organizations, the only votes to win the title was Denver and Oklahoma City. So it's like these two teams will determine, if things go according to plan, who the title winner is. And that, for the second straight year in a row, is enough to create a fierce, fierce rivalry.
Yeah, I think you have the 2 best teams in the NBA by consensus. I think you have the 2 best players in the NBA, probably not by consensus, because some people will say Luka, some people will say Giannis. But I think the 2 best players, and it's played out that way in MVP voting the last 2 years, and could happen again this year in Shai and Jokic. Like you said, in the same division, it's very apparent that these 2 teams are not only the class of the West, with apologies to the Rockets. They may be there also if they had Fred VanVleet, but then also the class of the NBA. Apologies to the Cavs and to the Knicks. I just think these are the 2 best teams and the 2 best players. And, oh, by the way, they both improved over the offseason because the Nuggets shored up their depth. Their one issue was depth, and they got better there. And the Thunder are going to get better just due to health. Jada playing the entire playoffs with a torn ligament in his wrist, Chet never being 100% from the hip fracture, but then also getting AJ Mitchell back, but then internal development. Like, these young guys are going to get better. So these 2 teams that went to 7 games last year should be the best in the NBA, the best players, and they both should be better. Best rivalry in the NBA right now.
I love it. That's our rivalry list. Let us know who you think are the biggest Thunder rivals this season. And until next time, be good and be good to one another.